Welcome back. You're watching ET Inside. After years of dithering, the government has finally agreed to allow foreign carriers to buy into domestic airlines. But will that be enough to save the industry? ET Now's Supriya Srinath caught up with Civil Aviation Minister Ajit Singh and began by asking if he's confident of getting the FDI proposal approved by his government's coalition partners.
There is a sense of urgency. So we are trying to move as soon as we can. Second thing is, it doesn't affect the public in a way that other FDI proposals do.
That's right.
And everyone also, all political parties and public in general, also realizes that the aviation industry is in trouble. So I don't think there will be any serious opposition, like they had for retail.
That's right, yes.
All political parties, all opposition parties, those who normally support the government, who have been supporting government from outside the last many years, they also were opposed to it.
Even within the Congress, there was opposition to FDI.
But in this case, first thing is there is a public awareness is very high that something has to be done to make this industry viable.
Let's first talk about the merits of 49% and why a change of heart from 26 to 49.
Considering that our current airlines, they are under financial stress. So one of the factors was that although 49% FDI was allowed many years back.
That's right.
And but nobody knew what's coming in because it's such a different business, technical business, or say not normal other run-of-the-mill industry anybody would invest. That there is a general feeling that only the airlines will be interested in investing in that. See, managing an airport or even a flight today, there are so many dimensions to it.
I agree.
Yeah. So therefore, this thing was mooted and 26% was allowed earlier.
That's right.
Although it has not gone through the cabinet yet. But there are some problems with 26% according
That's precisely the point. What were the problems and why the change?
According to that, the SEBI guidelines say that if you 26% somebody buys from investor, then they have to make an open offer. So that was a problem. And therefore the Committee of Secretaries met and they recommended 49% may be allowed. And let's remember that control still remains in Indian hands. Any FDI would be vetted by the Security Committee. Then FIPB considers all the factors. So it's not that it's an open field for anybody.
What was the underlying factor in giving an in-principle nod to 49%?
As I said, considering the growth we envisage.
That's right.
And the capital infusion needed, the technology needed, the experience and expertise needed in operating all these flights. That's why we decided to allow that.
You know, but the industry is divided over it. While one set of operators have welcomed the move, the other set of operators are crying foul. How will you convince the industry to come together?
It's only an enabling proposition.
That's right.
We are not going to ask any airline to invite FDI. If they don't want it, they shouldn't. And if you look at them, there are basically 6 airlines we have here.
That's right.
And some of them already have FDI. And some of them did start as foreign airlines participation in their capital. Whatever their current situation, and they may oppose it, but in principle, how can there be any opposition?
Some of the people who were a little, apprehensive about 49% FDI in aviation thought that when foreign airlines come in, they will ignore the smaller destinations, the destinations which will perhaps not be the big revenue rakers.
Where they will land, which centers they will service, what will be the schedule. This is all decided by the Aviation Ministry.
So that's a safeguard that you're putting in place. But a lot of people believe this is a veiled bailout of sorts for airlines. And this has been done on the insistence of one lobby in the aviation sector, if I may use the term and the name. Mr. Vijay Mallya has perhaps pushed this through. How would you shut up your critics?
All I can say is I saw in the papers yesterday that he's getting some loan from some entity, and it's not an airline.
while we talk about ailing airlines, and of course there is a whole lot that needs to be done to address some of their issues, and we'll just talk about that very quickly, but a lot of analysts and experts also believe that the airlines have been very inefficient in their operations. While demand has grown by only 11%, capacity addition has gone up by 17%, DGCA has taken notice of that. Will you also tell airlines at this point in time to restructure their own operations, to look inwards, because FTI cannot be an answer to inefficient operations?
See, there are there are conflicting views about whether there is overcapacity or not. Many airlines have different views on that, and one has to really look into it. And the way the traffic is going up, I don't think that, even if it is true, that won't last too long.
Okay, because
so I don't think that is a problem. And then certain airlines, you know, their plane utilization also is low, so
it will perhaps pick up.
So that will also pick up.
But what about inefficient operations? The costs of operations are way too high in India. And this is one reason why a lot of airlines are in trouble right now, because they couldn't manage their costs very well.
See, private airlines have to manage their costs themselves. One reason, of course, which is across the airlines is the aviation fuel, which in our country accounts for about 40% of the cost of operation, while worldwide norm is about 20% or so.
That's right.
And that's why next GOM will consider that carriers may be allowed to import directly. The whole idea will work only if the petroleum companies provide the infrastructure.
But
you don't expect airlines to have that infrastructure.
Absolutely.
And that's why there is some opposition. That's why it's going to GOM, because Committee of Secretaries already recommended it.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you that ATF imports, to which there is an in-principle nod, will go through? And because you were in discussions with Mr. Pranab Mukherjee, the finance minister, how open is he to this idea?
See, the whole point is that it has been recommended by Committee of Secretaries.
That's right, yeah.
And Petroleum Secretary was also part of that. So groundwork has already been laid. And urgency of this situation is also there.
While we talk about airlines and blame them for inefficient operations, the fact is that in India, tariff is under very, very watchful eye of the regulator. There is intense competition. Tariffs do not go up. There is no differential pricing. You've lived in the US for so long. There is differential pricing. Each time you're carrying an excess baggage, they charge you. Indian Airlines cannot do that. Will you enable this at all at any stage?
No, we have not regulated the tariffs here. In fact, many carriers are complaining that lot of companies are selling their tickets below cost.
You know, a lot of them also say that Air India started this whole price war.
Yes, that's what they say. That's what they say, and that may be true.
How will you address that issue?
See, the fact is that Air India started that to maintain their share in the passenger load.
That's right.
But to do that, you have to cut costs, which for Air India is very difficult to do. So that's why they got into this trouble.
But now that you're trying to steer them out of this trouble, will we expect prices, will we expect tariffs to rise? And because Air India will raise tariffs, there will automatically be the entire industry that will look at raising tariffs?
See, that's something, at least at present, government has no intention of interfering into this issue.
But you accept that this is a problem?
When we talk about competition, improves efficiency and all that, you have to give them those rights also. We
must admit that the national carrier is in a deep, deep trouble. What is the turnaround plan for Air India?
See, right now...
Does it worry you a lot?
It should worry everyone, because 43,000 crore they are indebted.
That's right.
And since it's a government concern, it's a PSU, its liability is on the government.
True.
And that cannot continue forever. So we are all waiting for Justice Dharmadhikari's report, because I believe Air India has to become competitive. It has to follow the industry norms in hiring, in payment, in work norms, all that. So for that, that understanding, it has to dawn on them that they are in service industry. But what we have to have is a very, some system of grievances and grievance redressal to begin with, so that people get an opportunity to complain. and then they should know that somebody is taking action on that. So we are going to, tighten that thing.
But what about financial restructuring? So you yourself said it's hugely indebted and one needs to look at financial restructuring.
Air India can't afford to have 3,000 crores interest burden every year.
That's right, yeah.
So financial restructuring has to be done, that everyone accepts. But there are so many rules of RBI, international banking, and so banks have to adhere to all of that also. So they will come up with these plans for the next UM.
Low-cost carriers, Kingfisher wrapped up its low-cost business just a short while back. A lot of other operators and experts believe that in India it will perhaps not be a viable business model. As the aviation minister, will you be pushing with the airlines to, to keep the business model viable for low-cost?
See, the low-cost airlines and the full-service carriers, the problem is same world over.
That's
you
right.
look into US, you look into Europe, but again then for long haul, and there is a market for full-service carriers also. So you are right, in India all those low-cost carriers are much better off, but then both are needed.
Some of the foreign airlines that we spoke to get their reactions on this, they said they would want to wait and watch the whole policy regime shape up and then make up their minds. What else can you do to attract those foreign guys in?
No, not just to attract them, basically we need lot more infrastructure, lot more airports, lot more connectivity.
Will you be asking for infrastructure status for aviation? That has been a long-standing demand for this sector.
For airports, I think it's already there.
That's right.
But that has been demand, and I haven't really looked into it. What are the pros and cons, and who is opposed, and how it can be pushed or not.
With that, it's a wrap on this edition of ET Insight. We'll be back next week, but until then, don't forget to write in with your feedback and suggestions. Thanks so much for watching.